What's good, everybody? It's your boy Jared Benjamin's in this bitch, doing a reaction video. Try to move this. All right. So this time I'm actually using my microphone that I record my music on, so the quality is gonna be way better now. You guys will be able to hear me a lot better, and there won't be no weird ass reverb sounding effect on it. We about to do another Mr. Ballen reaction video, actually. Hang on a second.
It's often said that truth is stranger than fiction.
And apparently it's about a terrifying secret in the family's basement. So this should be interesting. Here we go.
And in today's story, that's definitely the case. If this were a work of fiction, I think that readers or viewers wouldn't really engage with it. It would seem like the author was trying too hard to make it scary and bizarre. They would just feel like, yeah, too much. This is not relatable. This is not relatable. But it's true. And if you were to look it up online, this story, you'd get dozens of resources confirming it's true. All the legitimate media outlets and blogs and police reports would all show you that this really did happen. But because it's so well documented, because it's so true, the way it's presented, if you look it up, is here's what happened. Here's the answer to the mystery, because it was a mystery. But
Give me a
solved.
second, guys. I'm going
They
to turn on
start
the
with
light
the
so you can see
solution.
me better.
And then they tell you what led up to it. But what I'm going to do,
I'm going to pause it too. All right. Sorry about that.
is I'm going to tell this like a mystery. I'm going to tell you the strangeness first before I reveal what ultimately happened, because there is.
By the way, I'm not cutting out nothing out of my videos. Like, I know y'all want it professionally done or whatever the case might be, but I think it's more like cool if I just give you the raw, uncut version of what I'm doing, you know what I'm saying? It makes it more real, you know? Oh, shit.
Solution, and it's crazy and tragic, because this story I'm going to share with you today is actually the prequel to a whole host of horrible things that happened to a town. Before we get into today's story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format like I'm promising to do today, then you've come to the right channel, because that's all I do, and I upload
love this
3 to 4
shit.
times a
I'll
week.
live for this shit.
So if that's your deal, I would ask you to gently pulverize the like button and then subscribe to my channel and turn on all post notifications.
Gently
So
pulverize.
you don't miss any of those 3 to 4 weekly uploads. All right, let's get into today's story. In 1986, Annie and Jessica Andrews, who are teenage sisters, unfortunately lose their mother to cancer. It was a relatively abrupt death. It caught the family by surprise, and so following her death, Annie and Jessica lived full-time with their father, Brian Andrews. Now, Brian worked a lot, but with the death of his wife, he had to work even more to make sure he was bringing home enough of an income to provide for his 2 daughters. Annie and Jessica were hit very hard by the loss of their mother. They were very close with her, and with their father being gone so much, those two were left alone a lot at the house and left alone.
If I lost my mom at a young age, I don't know what I'd do, bro. That shit crazy.
Alone with their thoughts, and they missed their mom. And so one night when Brian was out at work, the girls decide to use a Ouija board and try to contact their mother. And they would even admit that they didn't really expect anything to happen. They just wanted some sort of connection to their mother, who they missed terribly. So they went down in the basement, they got out the Ouija board, and they have like a seance. They didn't really do much research into how to do it or what to do. They basically just started, kind of asking if their mother was here, could she give them some sign? And so they have this kind of Ouija board seance, and nothing comes of it. Brian is not home for this. Their father is not home, and it's just those two. And after a couple of hours of doing this seance, they ultimately put it away. And in a way, it was kind of a cathartic experience that they got to think about their mom really intently and kind of think maybe she could be with them right then. And in many ways, the seance was a success, because it made them feel closer to their mom, even if it was just for a moment and if it was artificial. So they put the Ouija board away, and the girls go upstairs, and they're kind of having a low-key night, and ultimately decide to go to bed. Now, their father has not come home yet, so just the girls. They're used to this. This is how a lot of nights went. And as they're laying in bed, they both start hearing tapping sounds. Now, they're in separate rooms, and they heard the same tapping sounds. And in fact, Jessica would get up and come into Annie's room and say, hey, do you hear that tapping sound on the walls? And Annie's like, yeah, I hear it too. And they're listening, and there's silence, and they hear this kind of like tapping sound in the walls. They didn't know what it was. They'd never heard it before. And the girls, again, they miss their mother so terribly, and they were basically hoping that it was their mom. They knew it couldn't be, but they were hoping it was. And so they're like, it's Mom.
Gotta be careful.
Mom's trying to get in touch with us. She's making sounds to get in touch with us. It's from the seance. It must have worked. And they start asking their mother questions like, are you here with us right now? And can you show yourself to us? And, are you looking after us? Just like questions that you would imagine people might ask if they thought, the ghost of a loved one was in the room with them.
Right.
And so it was scary, but it was also kind of reassuring that you have, what they believed to be the spirit of their mother looking out for them. And when their father finally came home that night, the tapping at this point had stopped, and they rushed to tell their father about the
I wonder if he's just using that picture in the background just to use it, or if he's using that picture as like, is that the house or some shit? I don't know. I think he's just doing it for the eerie effect,
tapping they heard, and they were happy about it. They weren't scared about it. They were happy about it. And Brian, he's worked all day, and he's grieving the loss of his wife, and he thinks that his daughters are making it up, especially because they told him about the Ouija board. And he's just thinking to himself, they're grieving. They're struggling with the loss of their mother. They're grieving. And, he felt really bad for them. And he even considered that first night putting them into therapy. Not because he was upset with them or anything, but because he's like, this is a manifestation of grief. But he ultimately said, look, guys, just go back to bed. I'm sure she's looking out for us. Go to bed. We'll talk about this tomorrow. And so the girls went back to their rooms. Brian didn't think much of it. He was just thinking, should I bring the girls to grief counseling, something like that. And everybody goes to.
I'll be laughing at the most unlaughable shit. I noticed that.
Now, this tapping.
My bad for being me.
For several days, the tapping got so frequent that it actually started disturbing the girls'
Not
sleep.
really.
And every time they would yell to their father to come in and check, the tapping would stop. And so it was like kind of driving them crazy.
It's a
and
fucking
then when
demon,
they would all
bro.
leave the house
Or whatever,
during the day,
a lower
in the evening,
vibrational
whatever,
being.
anytime the house was empty. And so they would
Taking full advantage. I think I might have to turn my mic down a little. Who knows? I'm gonna keep it right there.
come back to the house, and things would be moved. Furniture would be moved slightly out of position. Some of the silverware had been moved around. Just little things all over the house. And Annie and Jessica's father is quick to say, guys, I know this is you. I know you miss your mom, and I know you want this to be real, that you want your mom to be here with.
I've seen movies like that where the dad's like, oh, this can't be, he's always looking for like a rational answer. This can't be fucking real, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? Or it can't be like a spirit or an alien or whatever the case might be. He's always trying to dismiss it, you know what I mean? Even the mom sometimes is like, oh, I don't believe in that shit.
With us right now, but she's not. And you gotta stop this whole ghost thing. You gotta stop moving the furniture around. This is not healthy. If this continues, I am gonna ask that you guys start seeing a grief counselor. And the girls were insistent that it was not them. And the fact that their father didn't believe them and they knew it wasn't them, it put them in a really bad spot because they felt totally alone, scared to be in their house, because now it didn't really feel like their mother. It felt like something screwing with them. And that's not something their mother would do.
Yep.
And so they're thinking that this is like an evil ghost that they've unlocked through that Ouija board seance. And it's now terrorizing them. And there's nothing they can do because their father doesn't believe them. And it's just consistently happening.
Open the
They don't know
door.
what to do. One evening in January of 1987, the girls were together in the front room of their house. And they started hearing tapping sounds again. And so they hear this tapping sound not coming from the walls, but coming from the basement. And suddenly they feel, some confidence, like they're going to go down and confront this thing. because their father doesn't believe them.
With
They
a
don't know
knife.
what to do, so they're just
I
going to
know
go
that's
face
not the
this
real
thing head
picture,
on.
but
So
what?
they head right downstairs.
Hey, wanna play some video games? I know I do. I haven't seen the sun in years. So
Into the basement, and there's nothing. The
Even
tapping
a
stops
kid,
because they're down there
even
and
a
they can't
kid
find
wouldn't do
anything.
that
As they
shit.
turn to
Walk
go
down with a
back
knife or
upstairs, feeling
whatever.
a little bit silly that they're going to go fight this ghost, they notice writing in red that says, "Come find me, I'm in your closet," and they're horrified.
Uh-oh.
Because now this is like confirmation that this thing is screwing with them. It's not their mother. And it's now interacted outside of just tapping. It's actually writing on the walls. And so the girls run out of the house because this feels like a threat. They felt threatened by everything that was happening before, but it was almost like the writing on the wall was a step over the line. This felt like a direct, intentional threat towards the girls, kind of absolutely taunting them and scaring them. So they run out of the house. Their father was not there; he was working, and so the girls ran next door to the neighbors and said, "Can we stay with you for a minute? Something weird's happening in our house." They began to get into the weird writing on the walls, but didn't really go into too much detail. And the neighbor said, "We're just going to wait for your father to come home before we do anything." And so the girls stay with the neighbor. Brian comes home. As soon as they see Brian pull in the driveway, they flag him down. He comes over to the neighbors. Neighbor pulls Brian aside and says, "Here's what happened. They came over here." The girls are hysterical, and they tell their dad that there's writing inside the house. And so Brian, his first reaction is, "This is out of control now, guys. This is too much." He goes over though with them to the house, and he goes into the basement and he sees the writing on the wall, and his thought is like, now you guys are defacing our property to live out this kind of fantasy. And
Excuse
so
me, y'all.
this for him was the line in the sand that they've now crossed. It's now getting totally unhealthy, and he ordered them to go see grief counseling. So that actually began at this point. Several weeks would go by with no tapping, no anything, just silence in the house. It was almost like whatever this was had stopped. Then, one night, when Brian is working late into the night once again and the girls are alone, they're in the front room together and they're just sitting there. It's been nice having a couple weeks without any strangeness in the house. And they start hearing tapping from somewhere else in the house. And they get up, they kind of creep their way over to where they think they're hearing it, and it's coming from Annie's bedroom. When they go into Annie's bedroom, written on the walls is, "I'm back, find me if you can." Just like the last time they saw writing on the wall, they run out of the house. They flee the house, they go to the same neighbor's house, and they say, "It happened again. You gotta believe me, it happened again." The neighbor says, "Stay with me, we'll wait for your father again." Father comes home, same situation plays out. He gets flagged over to the neighbor's house. The neighbor says, "Hey, they're back again," with the writing on the wall. And Brian's mad. And he says to the girls, like, "I put you in counseling. I'm telling you to stop doing this. Like, this isn't."
One thing that I will do when I'm a father is, like, if I feel like these, my kids are like, I don't know, I would teach them better than to not make up stories, you know what I'm saying? And I would pick up on if they were making it up or not. Like, this guy, like, he should at least try to question his own rationality, you know what I'm saying? He's really just, like, assuming the worst, you know what I mean, out of his own kids. Like, I would never do that. Like, the first thing you think of is to assume the worst out of your own kids. Like, what kind of parent is that?
It's okay, it's not healthy. And he tells the girls and the neighbor to stay here. I'm going to go in that house and I'm going to search the house top to bottom to show you that there's nothing to be afraid of in that house.
He's going to see something.
He goes back to his own house, and when he opens the door, the house is in total disarray. It's like someone had ransacked the house.
Is that the picture?
And he's thinking to himself,
it doesn't say if it is.
The girls didn't do this. Someone else did this. So now he's on edge.
Now he knows.
He walks through the house, he's not hearing anything, and he goes up to Annie's bedroom, and he sees the writing on the wall.
Oh,
and
shit.
And then he looks, he sees a man standing in the closet wearing women's clothes, which would turn out to be his dead wife's clothes.
What?
Wearing a wig, carrying a hatchet. And this man in a dress is staring at Brian, and Brian's startled.
Oh,
the
my
guy starts
God.
running out. Brian tries to grapple
wearing
and fight
a
with
dress?
him. The man in the dress manages to run past Brian out
on some Jeffrey Dahmer shit. Yo, I just watched a freaking movie about like how Jeffrey Dahmer's quote unquote how his life went, bro. That shit was messed up. I can't even front, man. That nigga. I don't know. And some of the stories that this guy tells about people like him, oh my. And then now this guy in the closet with a hatchet and a dress. Ah.
Out into the rest of the house. Brian is like so caught off guard because this guy's got a hatchet. He doesn't know what he's gonna do. He starts chasing after him, but the guy's gone. Brian's looking in his house, but finally Brian just leaves the house because this guy's got a hatchet. He runs outside, he runs over to his neighbor's house, and he's like, call 911, there's somebody in the house. He makes sure his girls are okay, he stays with his neighbor, calls the police. The police go in, and they look everywhere, and they can't find anything. And they say to Brian, like, I'm sure someone was here. It's a very convincing story you've just told, but they're not here now. And
this is the problem with the police too. They're like, "Oh, we can't help you because there's no evidence." Oh my god. Like, this is the type of world we live in. This is the type of world we live in, ladies and gentlemen. We can't see beyond the surface, you know what I'm saying? A lot of us, I won't say all of us, but people like the policeman and then his father, he had to really see they got to see some type of evidence to really believe in something, or like really believe in somebody's word type shit. You can't just take someone's word, you know what I mean? Sometimes you can't though. Sometimes you just can't take people's word because some people are liars. But I would be taking my own kids' words if I believe they were being like, if I looked them in the eyes, I'd be able to tell if they was lying.
unfortunately, all we can do is tell you, you probably should not be here right now until whoever this was is caught. And you should stay with some relatives. We'll watch the house, we'll see if anybody else comes back, but there's not much we can do. And so, unfortunately, the girls and the father are left with no answer to what was going on or who this person was. And Brian's thinking to himself, like, how did he get away? How did this guy in the dress get away?
This guy in the dress.
How did that happen? I mean, they're searching the neighborhoods. He's wearing a pretty distinctive outfit. How did he get away? And so for 2 weeks, Brian and his daughter stayed with the family. But in those 2 weeks, no one found out who this guy in the dress was. I mean, Brian and the girls are traumatized. Brian feels like this horrible father that I've left my girls alone in the house over and over and over again.
See, this is why I wouldn't do what he did.
Crazy person with an axe in my house. I never believed them. What could have happened to them? It would have been my fault. And so it's a horrible time period. The girls are traumatized because now they realize they've been interacting with some crazy person in a dress with an axe in their walls. And it's just this horrible situation. But after 2 weeks...
I'm sorry, that's funny. The dress part is like, what is that even about?
And they decide, you know what? At this point, whoever that guy was, he must have ran away. We got police watching the house. Let's just go home. Let's just go home. We'll lock everything up. We'll get a security system. There's police watching the house. Let's just go home. And so they decide, okay, let's pack up and head home. And so as Brian is driving up his street, he looks at his house and he can see that there's a light on in the second floor. And he's thinking to himself, like, I thought the police were just watching it from the outside and just kind of patrolling the neighborhood. I didn't know there'd be police inside my house. And as he's looking up at the window, about to pull into his driveway, he sees the guy in the dress suddenly walk across the window. He sees him clear as day. So he stops what he's doing and he calls the police. Police are there in a second. The house is surrounded. So with the house surrounded, police finally go inside. Now, no one's been inside the house since Brian and the girls left. They locked it up and they were monitoring it. There was no police inside the house.
I'm still convinced it's a ghost.
Supposedly. The police, when they open up the door and go inside, the first thing they notice is not only is all the furniture flipped upside down and moved all over the place, but there are pennies glued to the ceiling. All these pennies glued to the ceiling. And there's red writing all
that's
over
weird.
the house. On all the walls and weird
Glued.
places, just writing, strange cryptic writing. They search the house and they don't find anything. But one of the officers who was down in the basement at one point
How did they not
noticed
find
that there was
anything?
a little piece of wood covering up what looked like a crawl space behind the washer and dryer. And he found that he could very easily move aside the washer and the dryer, and there was
See, they found something. This guy did.
board that when he pulled it aside, it was the entrance to a crawl space. In the crawl space, they find that someone had kind of burrowed between all of the insulation all around the house into all the walls, and there were these little peepholes in all the different rooms that whoever was in the crawl space.
Bro, this reminds me of that one movie with the doll. I forget what it's called. I think it's called The Boy. And there's this man living inside the fucking walls of this place, bro. And he, I don't know. It's some weird ass shit. And then the doll's name's Brahms or something. Leave in the comments if you know what that movie is. I think I got the name right, but just let me know if you've seen it or if you know what I'm talking about and if you know what the name is.
Could look into any room at any given time. And as they're searching this intricate crawl space that spanned the whole house, they find Danny LaPlante, who was this totally deranged teenager who had briefly dated Annie. Annie had broken it off with him, and so he had snuck into their house and had been living in their walls, listening to their conversations, had heard about Annie's mother passing away, and had kind of adopted this "I'm gonna pretend to be your dead mother" routine, and had been writing in.
Yeah, that takes a special kind of person to be able to do all this. Living in the walls and poking holes. Wow. Wearing a dress and running around with a hatchet and writing cryptic messages. Flipping all the furniture. Pretending to be a ghost. Wow, that's another level, man.
And catch up on the walls and tapping it. He had watched them do the seance, and so he had all this stuff to work with to really spook them, and had been sneaking out and moving furniture around and sneaking back into the walls for months. And
What a
that's not even the
crafty
worst of it.
bastard.
Danny LaPlante, after he was brought out of the crawl space, was arrested and then put into a juvenile detention center. And then when he got out of the detention center later in 1987, for reasons that no one understands, I don't even think Danny understands, he broke into someone's house and murdered almost an entire family in cold blood. I don't know about you guys, but the idea of somebody living in my walls for 2 months doing anything is horrifying, let alone Danny LaPlante, the psychopath that he was. But what really trips me out is when the police went in that second turn when they had the house surrounded, and they find pennies glued to the ceiling and on the wall, and then they find him in this intricate crawl space. Like, that's straight out of a horror movie.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be scary because it's.
Yes, dude, it is straight out of a horror movie. Like, there's so many movies that are like that. It's crazy. And then with the dad not believing and all that shit.
It's just too many weird elements. But it happened. And I just think about the trauma that the Andrews family undoubtedly has suffered, not only the loss of their wife, their mother, but imagining what could have happened to them, because Danny would go on to murder almost a
whole family.
Just as easily could have been them. And so I would imagine I'd be shocked if they ever got over it. That's a deep-seated trauma.
And they were already traumatized too. That's what's even more crazy. Like, people like this target traumatized people that are already like in a state of dissociation and just I don't even know how to explain it, like dark emotions, you know what I mean, or like insecurities and stuff like that. People like that prey on that. Same with like entities and ghosts and stuff, you know, certain ones. If you don't know what you're doing, you can get drained real fast with anything, really.
They were able to recover from. If you enjoyed this story and you want more content like this, if you would, please gently pulverize the like button, and then also subscribe to my channel and turn on all post notifications so you don't miss my weekly 3 to 4 videos.
Also subscribe to my channel and check out my new song. It's up here. It's called Find My Way, which I actually recorded right here. And I got the old-fashioned beats.
Video uploads. If you want to get in touch with me, message me on Instagram. My handle is johnballen416. I'm also very active on TikTok. My handle is Mr. Ballen, same as my YouTube channel. And I go live 3-4 times a week on TikTok as well. So I hope to read your comments and see you on other platforms. And until next time, that's going to do it. Thank you guys so much. Take care.
All right. So there's that. That was messed up, huh? Holy crap, man. I can't even believe how crazy that was. Some nigga living in the walls, huh? Wow. Well, that does it for this video, ladies and gents. I hope you guys have a beautiful night, a beautiful morning, and just keep doing you, you know what I'm saying? Don't let anyone tell you that you can't, because you can do it. You can do anything you put your mind to. Just remember, you're a divine being, and everything is all in divine timing. Jared Benjamin's out.